If we can't save the cutest animal in the world, what happens to the rest? Hey YouTube, welcome to a look at what we got done at Koala Gardens this week. I have a plantation area where we cut leaf to feed the koalas in care at Friends of the Koala. The kindy enclosure is also in here, and this area was planted in 2016. Looking after a plantation takes a fair amount of work, and I'm so grateful to the Department of Primary Industries who have provided some funding to do the work I'm going to show you here today. Hey, have you subscribed yet? If you haven't, fix it right now. You know what? 60% of the people watching haven't even done that yet. It's so easy. And I'd like to acknowledge the Widjabul people of the Bundjalung Nation on whose land I live, work and play. I'm Katrina and I'm passionate about saving koalas. Koala Gardens is a wildlife sanctuary on private land where I spend my own time and money voluntarily. Come on and support me on Patreon and help me save koalas, and jump onto my free Discord server and get into some great conversations. As the sun peeked over the horizon, I was out there checking for koalas in the work zone. Eucalypts are large trees, so there's a fine line between growing lots of leaf and the trees growing and getting out of hand too quickly. As you know, Bullet patrols the plantation a lot of the time, so I was glad to find him high in one of his favourite huge trees on the edge of the plantation, because we would have had to reschedule if he'd been down in that area, of course. The team was a mix of 2 professional arborists and 3 wonderful volunteers from Friends of the Koala. As you'll see, some of these large trees really needed trained professionals to deal with safely. There were 3 main arms to the task for the day. Firstly, the kindy trees needed the tops removed to ensure we can safely catch the young ones when it's time to get them out again. Secondly, some of the blue gums that are secondary food trees were becoming huge. We don't use that much of this leaf species, so we removed them and will plant some more tallow woods. And thirdly, we had far too much swamp mahogany, so we removed an area of them and will plant more forest red gum and tallow wood in this space. We aim to make sure the plantation is a one-stop shop for our leafers. We also had 3 arms to the strategy of dealing with what we cut down. A huge van load of cut leaf, enough for 2 days, were taken back to the hospital. Secondly, some of the large swamp mahogany trunks were taken back to create new log structures for inside the koala runs. And thirdly, all the rest that wasn't used for those 2 items went through a chipper and are going to be used to mulch the plantation. Not a single scrap has been wasted. We started work in the kindy, and tree by tree I directed which parts to remove. There's a fine line between having enough leaf, shade and height and taking out too much or leaving them too tall. The kindy trees are all primary food, so every scrap we could use was taken back as food. Up at the chipper, the leaf that's needed for the koalas in care is removed and sorted, and then we also had another film crew arrive from Sydney from filmprojects.com.au making a documentary. So it was truly one jam-packed day.
Beautiful fresh leaf here.
Moving on to arm 2 of the plan and the big secondary trees around the borders of the plantation. Our plantation coordinator Heather directed the arborist on how she needed the logs for the runs to be cut and arranged. And I have to say that Rob and Karsha from Inspiration Trees were fantastic and completely willing to organise their work around all of our needs. I put a link to them in the description below. The ground is still pretty wet as a result of all the rain we've had, and so getting the chipper down to the trees was not possible. Therefore, my quad bike became one of the critical pieces of equipment for use on the day. Amongst filming and helping, I also had the documentary team wanting to ask questions and interview me in a very noisy space.
He would be around 7 kilos.
And of course, Bullet took the entire day in his stride. The pile of mulch is growing steadily, while the team work through it all as though they've always worked together. The friends of the koala team left late in the morning, but the arborist stayed all day long. This was no small task and has been vital to the continuing health of the plantation and the safety of our volunteers. If the trees get too tall, they're hard to cut safely and put people at risk. The weekly maintenance I do, mowing, weeding and removing low growth around the base of the trees, will also be easier after this cleanup. All the mulch will increase tree health and assist suppressing weeds, so all these things add up to a better plantation of leaf for our precious koalas. The kindy is now ready whenever the next lot of youngsters are ready to come out. The plantation team will return in the next weeks to plant new trees and get that gorgeous mulch spread out. The quad bike has created a very muddy track showing just how damp the ground still is. It will resolve itself, however, so it was totally worth it. An hour or so after the last of the workers left, Bullet woke up, climbed up high in his favourite tree and had a big meal as though nothing had happened. And guess what? You've made it through to the end of another video, so would you write in the comments below, saving koalas together? Thanks for watching. Thanks for visiting Koala Gardens. Did you hit the like button? Now before you go, there's lots more great video to see, and make sure you've subscribed and hit that notification bell.